Welcome to another episode of Build with the CEO. My name is Trevor. I'm your resident CEO here at Coach Catalyst, and I'm here every Tuesday at 12 noon to walk through things you struggle with as a coach, both business and also coaching. And we are into a new month. This is the beginning of January, and I'm really excited about our themes this month. So if you've been following along, we typically choose a theme for the month, and then we go deep during that month on that theme. And being January, this is the time of year when a lot of coaches are running programs. At least I hope you're running a program. We should be running a program in January because the psychographic lines up with what we're offering, the psychographic of the client, right? And so in January, we're going to be running a program, and then we're going to find some interesting phenomenons that happen with running a program. And this month, we're going to cover all of it, and we're calling it the slump survival. Okay. And what we really mean by that is there are two different periods when you sign up a new client. And if you're running a program, right, when you sign up a new client where they are going to fall off, they're going to fall into a slump, right? The first one occurs even before the client starts day one of the program. And that's what we're going to tackle today. And then the second one typically occurs around week 3. And so this episode is going to be all about the first one, because this first slump, right, is where we might lose up to a third of our clients in this first slump. And if we don't get our clients to the finish line, it's going to be really, really, really hard to get them to sign up for the next program, right? So the whole goal with any of these programs, any challenges, is to get them to the finish line. And let's talk about this first slump. So here's the thing. It's not going to be the people that you expect, right? It's not going to be the uncommitted tire kickers who signed up on a whim. It's going to be your best clients, the ones who've done this before, okay? And the ones you thought were locks to finish strong. And if you think that's just how it goes with January challenges, we've got some research from our team that's going to completely change kind of how you think about client retention. Emma has been working on this project really hard, and she's come up with some really, really cool stuff. Emma, if you don't know Emma, she handles a lot of our educational content, and she spent the last few weeks going deep on motivational science, dropout patterns, and she really discovered something fascinating. There's two completely different types of client drop off, and we've been treating them kind of like the same problem when they're really not. And client drop off, call it ghosting, call it whatever you want, right? But there's two different types, and I alluded to them at the beginning, but I want to go a little bit deeper. So the first drop off point is the person who quits in the first week, sometimes before the program has even started. These are typically what we would call our repeat dieters, 35 to 55-year-old clients who've maybe done Weight Watchers, Atkins Keto, Whole30, weird cabbage soup thing, right? Whatever, right? They know what's coming. And then the second type of, let's call them ghosts, right? Ghost number 2 is the person who starts strong and then vanishes around week 3 when the dopamine wears off and it just gets like hard, right? So this is a biological motivation crash that hits everybody, even first timers. But today we are going to talk about ghost number 1, because if we can stop people from quitting before they even start, we're winning, right? Next week, we'll tackle ghost number 2 and show you how kind of some features in Coach Catalyst, how we've actually designed the platform in a way to help you understand when motivation is starting to fail with clients, and you can intervene as a coach and help them be more successful. All right. I want to first start today by talking about a concept called anticipatory restriction. Okay, and I'll explain a little bit more about what that is. But anticipatory restriction, that's the term I want you to kind of remember. So this is what's actually happening in your client's brain when they sign up for your January challenge, or any challenge really. You're excited, they're excited, you're fired up, they're fired up. You've got this incredible program plan, right? You're sending out these emails that are getting them all jacked up. Let's go. This is your year. We're going all in. Meanwhile, your client, let's call her Sarah, right? Sarah's sitting at home and her brain is doing something completely different, right? Sarah has dieted before, like a lot before. She did low carbs in her 20s. She maybe tried intermittent fasting. She's done 3 rounds of Whole30, and every single time she's followed really the same pattern. Monday, crushing it, 100% meal prep done, water bottle filled, machine, right? Tuesday, still good, feeling great. This time is going to be different. Wednesday, okay, a little tired, but we're still in this. Thursday, had a little slip, ate some leftover pizza, forgot to pack lunch, had 3 cookies at the office. It's fine, right? Tomorrow's a new day. And then Friday, you know what? I'll start fresh on Monday. So here's what happened next. Here's what happens next. And this is the part that is actually kind of crazy is Sarah's brain has learned this pattern. It knows the restriction is coming. So the second she signs up for your program, before she's even eaten a single healthy meal, her mind goes into survival mode. And that's what's called anticipatory restriction. Anticipatory restriction. And it triggers compensatory eating. So the basic translation is, hey, diet is coming. Eat everything now while you still can, because I'm going to go on this very restrictive diet. I'm not going to be able to do all the fun things or have all the fun things, right? So let's get that out of the way now. This is just happening in someone's circuitry. So what happens to this person in between when she signs up and the start date? They binge. Not because they're weak, right? Not because they're uncommitted, but because their nervous system is trying to protect from the famine it thinks that's coming, right? Now here's where it gets even more interesting. We talk about like dopamine and motivation and how the first week of a new program is all excitement and novelty, and that's when dopamine is the highest. That's true for people who haven't been through this cycle like 10 different times, right? But for our repeat dieters, by the time they show up to day one of your program, they've already burned through their dopamine supply. They spent the previous week eating everything in sight because, again, restriction is coming, right? Maybe drinking more than usual because this is the last hurrah, no alcohol, right? Staying up late because their sleep schedule is going to get serious. Maybe feeling anxious and guilty the whole time because they know they're self-sabotaging, right? So they arrive at day one already depleted, already hungover, not just from the alcohol, but sugar, processed food, staying up, all that kind of stuff. But then what do most coaches do, right? What do we do as coaches? We want to get them excited. We want to hype them up. So we hit them with the let's go all in, no excuses, commit 100%. X food is the devil, right? We've all been there. I've been there. You shouldn't eat this food. And like, this person is sitting there thinking, like, I already ate that food, right? I already ate bread. I like bread last night. And am I already failing? Like, they start to question themselves. The thing here, though, is like they don't actually tell you this. They don't post in the community about it. They just simply go quiet. Some would call it ghosting. And they fall off before the thing is even started. And as coaches, sometimes our coaching language can make this worse. And we many times do it without even realizing it. When we use this kind of all or nothing language in week one, and I'm as guilty as anyone with this stuff, so like no judgment here by any means. But when we say things like, we're going hard this week, or no cheat meals, or you're either all in or you're out, this is about discipline and commitment. What you're really doing is creating like this kind of like a shame trap for anyone who's already struggling. Because Sarah, she ate the pizza on Thursday. She knows she's not all in. She knows she's not hitting 100%. And now really she has a couple choices. Tell you she's struggling, admit she's not perfect, risk disappointing you or looking weak in front of the entire community, or just kind of like check out, disappear, right? Stop checking in, stop posting, quietly back away and pretend like she was never that really committed anyway. Which one do you think most people are going to choose? Option 2, right? It's kind of obvious, right? So Emma said something in our last meeting that really stuck with me. She said, if you tell your client that like bread is the devil and then they eat bread, they're not going to tell you, they're just going to disappear, right? Because like ultimately we made the mistake of not positioning ourselves as someone who coaches imperfect humans. We got to position ourselves as someone who only accepts perfection. And ultimately, right, nobody is perfect. So all of this stuff, this isn't meant to be like all doom and gloom and we're doing this all wrong, but it's to kind of set the stage. Because I know like you run into this as a coach. I want to set the stage so that we can introduce a solution. And this was a really cool concept that Emma came up for our theme this month of slump survival that is really going to help you as a coach. So here's the good news. Once you understand this is what's happening, you can actually do something about it. So I'm going to create a program we're calling the pre-ramp program, and I'll show you it here in a second, but specifically designed for repeat dieters, which, let's be honest, is probably most people that we're coaching, right? The idea is simple. Instead of hyping them up for this kind of big day one launch, you slow them down. This is a 5-day program, and it's meant to be used before your challenge or main program starts. And instead of like, get ready to go all in, the message is pretty simple. Hey, you've done this before. Let's talk about why it didn't work last time and what we're going to do differently this time. It's not a meal plan. It's not workouts. It's psychology and reflection and setting them up to not repeat the same patterns. So I'm going to share my screen here in a second. I want to walk you through this program inside of Coach Catalyst. So if you already are using Coach Catalyst, this one's inside the program library. If you just go into your account, click programs, click marketplace, I just search for ramp and it will come up. And you'll be able to click it, download it, and make any edits that you need to do it. But I want to walk through it with you guys because I think it'll be powerful, even if you aren't using Coach Catalyst, which you should be. Sign up for a 14-day trial. But if you're not, we'll kind of give you some of the psychology behind it. So I'm going to share my screen here, hopefully, and make sure I share the right one. Yep, there we go. Okay, sweet. So I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to walk through what this actually looks like. And again, remember, you can grab this from your Coach Catalyst library. Just go into programs, go into marketplace. But let's talk about these 5 lessons that are set up here. And we set them up inside of here for Monday through Friday, but that's not that big of a deal on like what days they are. These can be any days of the week. They're just kind of set in here this way, but you can do them however. So the first one is like this isn't your first rodeo. So I'm going to open it up here so you can see it. And I'll talk a little bit about like what's in this lesson. So this first lesson is basically permission to acknowledge reality, right? If you've tried to change your eating before, right? And you know how this usually goes. You're excited on Monday, and by Thursday, something's coming up or things have already gone sideways. And then by Sunday, you're planning on starting again, right? So this lesson walks them through that. What's your history of this? When have you tried it before? What worked? What didn't? And here's the key. It normalizes the struggle. It says this pattern isn't because you're weak. It's because your brain is trying to protect you. Most coaches skip this. They want to pretend the past really doesn't exist and just focus on the future. But your client's nervous system remembers every failed attempt. So you have to acknowledge that. That's really, really important. Okay. And that's what this first one does. So the second lesson here, the anticipatory restriction, right? This is where we explain this concept of anticipatory restriction, okay? In like what I would call like client-friendly language, right? This lesson talks about how our brains are wired to fear scarcity, and when you know restriction is coming, right? Because your brain is experienced this before, right? Remember repeat dieters. Your brain says stockpile now, get it, eat it all now, right? Because there's restriction coming, the famine is coming. So if you've been eating more than usual in the days leading up to starting, that's not a lack of willpower, that's really biology, right? And then here's the shift. We ask them to reflect on what they're actually afraid of. Is it hunger? Is it being the weird one at social events? Is it disappointing again or disappointing themselves again? Because once you name that fear, it really has less power, right? And this lesson is doing something most programs really never do. It's letting the client feel their resistance before the program even starts, instead of pretending that resistance doesn't exist. Okay. And so that's the second one. The third one here is called the diet binge cycle. And this is one of my favorites. It basically gives them permission to not go all in on day one. Simple lesson here is, what if instead of aiming for 100% perfection, you aim for 80%? What if you built in wiggle room from the start? Because here's what happens, right? If you tell yourself you're going to hit 100% and then you hit 90%, you feel like a failure. Right? But if you tell yourself you're aiming for 80% and you hit 90%, you feel like an overachiever. Same accomplishment, right? Same behavior, different framing. So a completely different emotional outcome. So this lesson walks the client through, what does 80% look like for you? What's the non-negotiable? What's flexible? And this is really important for repeat dieters, because they've been taught that anything less than perfection is failure. And that's exactly why they quit. Okay. So as we move into lesson 4 here, give you a quick synopsis here. This is the missing honeymoon. So this basically is a pre-mortem for their failure, right? It asks, when do they usually quit? What's the trigger? Is it stressful? Is it a stressful day at work? Is it a social event? Is it exhaustion? And then it says, okay, so that day is coming. What's your plan? Not if it happens, but when it happens. Most programs will wait until the client is in a crisis mode to address this. And then by then they're already emotionally flooded and really not even thinking clearly. So this lesson says, we know you're going to have a hard day. Let's decide right now what you'll do when that happens. Will you message me? Will you adjust your targets for that day? Will you just acknowledge it and move on without spiraling? Having that plan ahead of time is the difference between a bad day and quitting entirely. And then also on this day, we've included a form. Okay. So this form is a good starting point for the client to fill this out and give you better information as a coach. Which parts of starting your nutrition plan do you feel most confident with? What skills or habits do you already have that could make starting feel easier this time? What feels hardest about starting right now? When things don't go perfectly, what usually happens to you? If 100% feels like too much right now, what percentage feels manageable? If you want this time to feel different, what would you need to change at the start? Right. So we're getting the client to do some reflection. Remember, this is the repeat dieter. This is the person that's done things over and over again and hasn't been successful. So this is going to give you some more ammo, right, in coaching this client. And we've got it in there on day 4, but you could really put it in there whenever. And then finally, the last lesson here is to start differently. So basically, it's like, let's get it all on the table, right? We're right in here and we're getting them going. So getting them to answer the questions. What are you most afraid of? What's scary about starting? Where do you think you'll struggle? What do you need from me as a coach, and why this matters for you? Um, and this is why it matters for you as a coach. When someone fills this out, right, you're going to have your roadmap on how to personalize week 1. So that was the form that I showed you before, right? If they say something like, "I'm terrified, I'll binge on the weekend," to check in with them on Friday afternoon, not Monday morning after it already happened. And remember, we can automate some of this stuff, right? We could automate a check-in on Friday, right? If they say, "I always quit when I mess up once," to normalize imperfection right from the start. And so this isn't just like a feel-good journaling exercise. This is intel that you can actually use as a coach, right? And then this final lesson, to start differently, you'll see that one here, but this just kind of brings it all together and helps them figure out where they need to be on this spectrum of 0% to 100%, right? And help them to start a little bit differently as part of their program. So that's what we got here. This is the repeat dieter ramp up week, and you can find that right under programs and under programs, and then under marketplace, and just type in ramp and it'll pop up there. So that should help you there. Let's kind of change some screens here again. Got some layout changes. Stop that sharing. There we go. We'll bring it back. Sweet. So, all right. So how do you actually use this? Let's talk about some implementation, because you might be thinking like, "Hey, this sounds great, but I've already sent out a bunch of hype emails. The challenge starts next week. What do I do?" So there's a few ways you can do this. If you are starting a challenge, let's say that starts on the 13th or later, you want to send this program out right away, like soon, like today. "Hey, I know you're excited to start, but I want to give you something that's going to help you prepare differently than you have in the past. This is 5 short lessons. Should take you maybe 15 to 20 minutes total. Do this before we officially start. Drip them out if you need to. Super easy to drip it out." If your challenge is already started, you can still use this, but you can send it as like a little bit of a reset for anyone that may be struggling right away. Hey, if the first few days have been harder than you expected, that's actually normal. Here's why that happens and what you're going to do. And then for your next program, you can build this into the standard process. So you can make it part of your kind of client onboarding, especially if you're getting a lot of clients that are a lot of clients that are repeat dieters. That's what this program is for the repeat dieters. And remember, the reason behind this is for our repeat dieters, they are going to have a higher likelihood of falling off before the program has even started, because of this concept of anticipatory restriction. If we can get in front of that, if we can bring all of these feelings, this psychology to light, and have the client do some reflection, they're going to have a much higher likelihood of being successful now over the course of the program. So remember, this is really for repeat dieters. I'm going to show you one more thing here too. So give me a second. I'm going to share my screen one more time. Change that over. And we also created a guide that goes along with this, and this will be in the description, the link to this. Emma put together a really cool slump survival guide. We actually have 2 guides. We're going to release the second part next week, and we'll bring it all into one. But this guide walks through this concept of early quitting, this anticipatory restriction, and why clients quit in the first week. And it'll help you kind of educate yourself a little bit so that you can provide a better experience to your clients. So there's a lot of cool tips and tricks in here. It's about 10 pages long, so it's a quick, easy read, but it's going to help you help those clients who need help right out of the gate, right? For those people that are repeat dieters and they just are thinking differently than the person that this is their first rodeo. Okay. So, all right, let's talk about like a little bit of like a bigger shift here. So here's what I want you to understand. This isn't about adding like a pre-ramp program to your coaching. It's about fundamentally shifting how you think about your clients. Most coaches, myself included, historically, we coach like everyone's starting from zero, right? Like everyone's a blank slate ready to be molded. But most of our clients, they're not blank slates. They're veterans at this. They've done it over and over again. They're just hoping that this time with you is going to be different, right? So they got scars. They've got scar tissue from past failures. They have nervous systems that learn to protect themselves from restriction. And if we ignore that, if we kind of just blast through that with, hey, let's go all in energy, we're kind of asking them to override their biology, right? Through just sheer willpower. This is going to work for a small percentage of people, but the rest just kind of like quietly disappear. So really what Emma's research showed us is that retention isn't about motivating people harder. It's about understanding the actual psychological barriers they're facing and addressing them proactively. And so this is our ghost number one. It's the pre-programmed dropout. And this is preventable, but only if we acknowledge that it exists. And so if you're seeing this, people that are redoing your programs for the 10th time, and they're still not completing it, they're ghosting right away, this could be a strategy that you could use and employ to help your clients start better, especially for the ones that have done it over and over and over again. So that's our ghost number one, right? It's the client that doesn't even make it to the starting line. It's the client that is a repeat dieter and their biology is working against them, right? That's what we talked about today. One of the slump survival guide was built to help you tackle, and that's why the pre-ramp program or the pre-program, those 5 lessons and that form were created to help you with that client. Okay, so definitely go grab all of that inside of the marketplace. Now, next week, we're going to be talking about ghost number 2. This is the mid-program dropout, right? The week 3, maybe week 4 dropout. If you've ran any challenges or done anything that's like 6 weeks long, you know that week 3 is when you're going to lose a lot of people. If you lose anybody, it's going to be in week 3. And that's the like kind of the biological motivation crash that happens really to everyone, even people who don't have any kind of history of dieting. And Coach Catalyst was actually developed around these concepts, and there's certain pieces of it, certain features that we've built to help you spot kind of this type of drop off in real time. And so we'll be talking about some forms that help you kind of assess readiness before the program even starts. We're going to be talking about the notification center. We're going to be talking like the last 7-day history, some bulk messaging, compliance tracking, things like that, to show you like how can you use technology and tools to start seeing some of this stuff before it's too late, ultimately, right? Because when someone like ghosts or stop communicating, right, it's really hard to bring them back. And so there are signs that happen early on, and if we're not using like technology and those kind of things, it's going to be hard to spot them unless you have a couple clients. So here are the action items for this week. Okay, action item number 1, grab the pre-ramp program from the Coach Catalyst Marketplace. It's live right now. If you're not a Coach Catalyst user yet, start your free trial. You'll have access to everything. Go in there, grab that one. Remember, program. The second piece of that is grab the Slump Survival Guide. That is in the description. The link will be in the description. So you can just grab that. Let me see if I can pull up what the actual link is. It is guides.coachcatalyst.com/slump survival. Okay, so guides.coachcatalyst.com/slump survival. That will get you the slump survival kind of part 1. Part 2 will be coming out next week when we talk about our week 3 ghosts, our week 3 drop-offs. And then action number 2, if you have a challenge starting in the next 2 to 3 weeks, send this pre-program to your repeat dieters before the program starts. And don't wait until the day before. Send it out the week before the program starts so you can digest these lessons one at a time and really take some time to go through it. And then also have them fill out that form. Have them fill out that reflective question form so that you will get better information to coach them better. Okay. And obviously, this is obvious, but I do need to say it. and then read their responses, look for who's kind of flagging themselves as high risk for potential early dropouts, right? And then ultimately give you some tools on how you can coach them better. Right? Even if you just prevent 2 or 3 people from ghosting with strategies like this, that can make a massive impact on your business because it gets more people to the finish line. And if we get more people to the finish line, we have they're going to get better results, so we're helping them achieve the thing they set out to achieve. And then B, we're going to have better conversion into our regular coaching program or into our next coaching program, right? Because if we don't get people to the finish line, there's no way they're signing up for the next month, right? So we need to get people to the finish line. This is a strategy, this is a program that can help you do it. Okay. So hopefully that was helpful for you. Next week, we're going to cover ghost number 2, that kind of mid-program drop off, and we'll give you some tools, tips, strategies to be able to help with those people as well. So my name is Trevor, CEO of Coach Catalyst. We're here to help you coach more people, coach them more efficiently, and ultimately change more lives. So hopefully you join me again next Tuesday at noon. Great rest of your week. We'll see you later.